Welcome everyone to the first ever Earthworm Survival of the Fittest. Not live here in Ermita, Luzon ng Maynila.
Before we start, ladies and gentlemen, you should first know that animals respond in a certain way due to changes in the environment. Earthworms are no exception. If noticed, felt, or experienced, these changes in the environment serve as stimuli and cause the animals to react, either voluntarily or involuntarily. These reactions are often manifested physically. In this experiment, or shall we say competition, live earthworms will be observed to determine how they react to certain stimuli and what physical manifestations will indicate these reactions. Now we would like to thank our lovely audience and participants. First and foremost, our athletes. Several live earthworms were observed in this experiment. We would also like to extend our gratitude to the sponsors for making this event possible. The materials provided for this competition are as follows. The arena, a dissecting pan with a damp sheet of paper, where the worm should be placed for observation. Next, a dissecting needle was used to stimulate the worm with contact or non-contact. We also needed a flashlight and a card with a small hole in the center which would only allow a small and focused amount of light to hit a certain body part of the worm. An alcohol lamp was used as a source of heat for experiments requiring this condition. Lastly, the chemical reagent known as xylene was requested and was used as well. We will now present the mechanics of the competition. The entire show is divided into 5 rounds that the earthworms have to survive: contact, light, moisture, heat, and chemical round. Different rounds introduce a specific stimulus to observe how the earthworms react. It is important to note that in each round, different sets of earthworms are acquired from their soil habitat. This was conducted in a controlled setup by placing the dissecting pan with a damp sheet of paper in a dark environment at room temperature to eliminate other possible moderator values. It is to make sure that the reaction of the earthworms was because of the stimulus introduced in the experiment and not because of other factors. Here is what will happen in each round. Contact! Using the dissecting needle, the worm was lightly touched on its anterior end, posterior, and middle portion. The contact with the worm was stopped, then after 5 minutes, the same stimulus was applied on its middle portion. Light! The light passing through the card with a small hole was shown in the middle, anterior, and posterior ends of the worm. Heat! The tip of the dissecting needle was heated using the alcohol lamp and placed near the different body parts of the worm. Moisture. For the moisture experiment, tissue papers were placed on the dry dissecting pan. The setup was prepared so that half of the tissue papers remained dry while the other half was wet with water. 5 earthworms were placed randomly in the setup and closed for incubation. After 15 minutes, the setup was opened and the location where all worms resided was observed. Chemical. The tip of the dissecting needle was submerged in the xylene reagent. Then, it was also brought close to the different parts of the worm. In the first round, we will begin with the contact round. We see some impressive twitching. Apparently, being poked with a tiny sword isn't exactly their favorite activity. We can see that the earthworm is exhibiting a withdrawal reflex. Upon touching with the needle, the worm contracts the muscles in the stimulated region and nearby segments, causing it to shorten and squirm away. This is the worm's defensive mechanism. Earthworms lack complex sensory organs, and touch can indicate potential danger. Withdrawing helps them retreat into their burrows for protection. After 5 minutes, repeated stimulation was applied to the middle portion where we can see the withdrawal reflex might become less pronounced. This is because of habituation, where the worm gets accustomed to the stimulus and reduces its response. Moving on to our second round, the light round. Hey, where are they going? Whoa! The earthworms are trying to move away from the light. This is expected as earthworms have light sensitive cells throughout their skin. Bright light can be drying and harmful, so they have a negative phototaxis, meaning they move away from the light source to seek the cool, moist environment of their burrows. Looks like these little guys are more into exploring cave tunnels than sunbathing, hmm? Next up, for the third round, we all love it, the heat round. Similarly, the earthworm exhibits a withdrawal reflex and moves away from the heated rod. Similar to light, intense heat can be damaging, which triggers a withdrawal response to escape the discomfort and potential injury. These little critters sure won't like the summer heat, especially at this time. For the fourth round in the ultimate test of luxury, our earthworms are presented with a choice: a 5-star, 2-star, moist hotel, or a dusty motel. Let's see where they end up after 15 minutes. As expected, the earthworms are migrating towards the damp side of the dish. This is because earthworms need a moist environment for respiration and to prevent their bodies from drying out. They can sense moisture gradients through their skin and will actively move towards the damper area. Looks like these little guys are more interested in a refreshing cannonball into a kiddie pool than catching the sun's rays poolside. For our final round, the chemical round, earthworms will encounter a strong chemical agent known as xylene. Will they survive this final round? These worms never cease to amaze me. As we can see, the earthworms are exhibiting a strong withdrawal reflex and try to move away from the xylene. This can be attributed to earthworms having a chemoreceptor sense that detects chemicals. The introduction of xylene will be unpleasant and potentially harmful, causing the worm to retreat in an attempt to avoid it. They avoid it, we put it on our nails. Very good.
Folks, this earthworm survival of the fittest has been the most action-packed event. But they did teach us valuable lessons. Earthworms like moisture. They dislike heat, bright light, harmful chemicals, and pokes. And they apparently hold grudges for a very short time. Stay tuned for our next event, only here at Scientist Test of Testosterone Trials.